Hi everyone, in this video we are going to be learning about writing the equation of a circle with completing the square. So we have previously learned that if you are given the equation of a circle in center radius form, that's this form I'm highlighting here, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, that it is simple to identify the center and radius. If you need help with center radius from the previous video in this playlist, we'll go over that in more detail. In this video, though, we're going to be given equations in general form, convert them to center radius form through the process of completing the square, and we'll identify the center and radius as usual. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a model problem. And if you have this worksheet that you're following along with, you'll see on the left-hand side there is a lot of text there that in great detail goes through each step of the process. But for this video, I'm just going to go through the actual problem itself, and I'll explain all of that stuff aloud to you. So when we are given a problem in general form, that's what this is called here. Okay, I can't look at this and immediately know what the center and the radius are. We have to use this process called completing the square in order to get it in center radius form. So you want all of the x terms to come first, okay? Then you want all of the y terms, and then any term that does not have a variable and is just a constant, you want to move that to the other side of the equal sign. If there are two x terms like there are here, x squared and 8x, you want the exponents in descending order, means they're decreasing. And you're going to then leave a little gap after the two x terms. You can see that in my next line here that I'm kind of bolding over. Since there's two y terms, I'm also going to leave a blank below or after the 6y. And whenever you're working with equations, we know that whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I'm going to also just put two blank spaces on the right-hand side of this equal sign. Now it's a matter of how do we figure out what number goes in that blank space. And that's the process called completing the square that you learned in Algebra 1. So here's what that looks like. If you notice in my next line, I'll underline here so you can compare. Those blank spaces have been replaced with 16s or 9s, depending where we're looking. So here's how we figure out what number goes there. Let's look at the x's first. We're going to take this number that's in front of the x term, the coefficient of the x term. We're going to divide it by 2 and then square it, multiply it by itself. So if I take 8, divide it by 2, I get 4. And if I square 4, I get 16. And that's what we fill the blank space in with. Over with the y's, I take the 6, I do that same process, divide it by 2, and then square it, and I get 9. Over on the right-hand side, that's much easier. Whatever you put on the left goes on the right to keep the equation balanced. Then you'll see that I just added 16, 16, and 9 to get 41. All right, now if we take a look at this, I just want to highlight here to show you basically what we're doing is we're creating two trinomials. One of them is x squared plus 8x plus 16, and the other is y squared plus 6y plus 9. We're creating these so that we can factor, and that will help us write this equation in center radius form. So if I factor x squared plus 8x plus 16, I'm looking for two numbers that add up to 8 and multiply to 16. And those numbers are 4 and 4. You should get the same number twice every time. If I'm doing it with the 6y, y squared plus 6y plus 9, I'm looking for two numbers that add to 6 and multiply to 9, and that's 3 and 3. So you'll notice if I scroll here, basically what I have done is I have factored that trinomial, and I factored that trinomial. So I got the x plus 4 times x plus 4 and y plus 3 times y plus 3. And what I'm doing is just rewriting it. If I'm multiplying x plus 4 by itself, that's the same as squaring it. So I'm just putting this as x plus 4 squared instead. And the reason this is beneficial is because once I rewrite it this way, this is what we are calling center radius form. And now I can quickly identify that the center is -4, -3, taking the opposites of what's in the parentheses, and my radius is radical 41. Okay, so that's the long process of rewriting a circle equation from general form to center radius form. Now, as we get better at it throughout the course of this video, you're going to see that we're able to go much quicker, and you won't necessarily need to reference any notes. You'll just kind of get the hang of it. All right, let's take a look at our first practice problem. All of these directions are the same. We're going to take the equation, write in center radius form, identify the center and radius. All right, this one looks slightly different than our demo problem because there is only one x term. That just means you have less work to do, so that's not a bad thing. So after the two y terms, you're going to leave a space. After the -5, you're going to leave a space to keep that equation balanced. We're going to fill those in with +9s. To get that, remember, here's how we're doing it. We're taking this coefficient, divide by 2, then square it, and whatever we put on one side, we put on the other. Now I'm going to factor that trinomial, so y minus 3, and over here I'm just going to add. I'm going to rewrite this as x squared plus y minus 3 squared equals 4. Now it's in center radius form, and I can tell you the center is 0, 3, and the radius is 2. Okay, we take the opposites of the values to get the center, and we square root that value on the end to get the radius. All right, for number 2, everything's the way I want it. I have my x terms, I have my y terms, I have the constant on the right-hand side. So we'll be leaving 2 gaps in this problem, one after the x's. And we're going to leave one after the y's, balance that out on the other side of the equation with 2 gaps here. All right, to fill in what these gaps are, so where I have the -8x, if I take -8, cut it in half, I get -4. Square that and I get 16, and I'll balance that out on the other side. For the y's, -32 divided by 2 is -16. Square it, you get plus 256. Balance that out on the other side. All right, so let's factor. I have x minus 4, x minus 4. That's for this trinomial. For this one, I have y minus 16, y minus 16. And over on the right, if I just add those numbers, I get 9. This gives me x minus 4 squared plus y minus 16 squared equals 9 when I rewrite it. And the center of my circle then is 4, 16, and the radius is 3. Okay, for number 3, I noticed that I only have one x term. There are 2 y terms, but they're kind of in the wrong order. They're not in descending order, the exponents, so I'm going to flip those. I don't need to change any signs with them. I'm just rewriting it. But with the 12, I'm going to move that to the other side, and when I do that, that's like I'm adding 12 to both sides. When you move it to the other side of the equation, it will change signs. I'm going to leave my x squared alone because there's no single x term. And I'm just going to put a space after the y's. I'll be filling it in with a +4 because I'm taking this 4, halving and squaring. And I'm going to factor. So x squared plus y plus 2 equals 16. X squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 16. The center is 0, -2, and the radius is 4. Number 4, notice this looks a little different right off the bat because we have a coefficient of x and y. We are not going to complete the square that way, so what we are going to do is divide every term by 5. And that way we can complete the square just like we have on all the other problems. I'm also going to rewrite this and move that 18 over to the other side by subtracting 18 on both sides. All right, I have 2 x terms, so after them, leave a space. You don't need to put the underline if you don't want to. I just like to put it as a reminder to fill it in. That's up to you. And since I end up with 2 spaces on the left, I add 2 on the right. All right, they're going to get filled in with a +1 and a +36. And now I'm going to factor here. So when I look at the factors, x minus 1, plus, make sure there's that plus sign between your factors, y plus 6, and over here we just add. All right, I have x minus 1 squared plus y plus 6 squared equals 16. That makes my center 1, -6, and the radius equal to 4. Number 5, I notice that the 2y is on the wrong side, so I'm going to subtract that over. And at the same time, I'm going to start to leave my spaces. So there's 2x terms, leave a space. There's 2y terms, leave a space, and balance out that on the right side of the equation. All right, fill in your gaps. Plus 16 and plus 1. You're going to start to see a lot of the same numbers used. X plus 4, x plus 4 once we factor, y minus 1, y minus 1, and over here we add to get 81. So x plus 4 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 81. The center is -4, 1, and radius 9. Number 6, I'm going to move the 9 over before starting. So remember, I always want my x terms in descending order in terms of the exponents, then my y terms, and any term without a variable I want on the right-hand side. So once I move that over, I see I'm going to need to leave a space after the y's. It will get filled in with a plus 25. Just a reminder, how am I getting plus 25? I'm looking at the coefficient of the y term, dividing it by 2, and then squaring it. So I get x squared plus y minus 5, y minus 5 equals 36. I'm going to rewrite that here. And now I'm in center radius form, so the center is 0, 5, and the radius is 6. All right, let's take a look at 2 more. Hopefully it's starting to seem repetitive. All right, number 7 is set up exactly the way I want it. I have 2 x terms, so I'll be leaving a space after it. 2 y terms, so I'll be leaving a space after it. And the constant's already on the right-hand side. Yes, it happens to be a fraction here, but other than that, this is really set up exactly how we want. All right, we're going to fill in our blanks. So plus 49 and plus 36. I'm going to go ahead and factor the 2 trinomials. And over on the right is where some people might start to get thrown off. So when I take a look at this, I have -4/5 plus 49 plus 36. If it helps you and you want to make the -4/5 -0.8, suppose you could do that too. That's not necessarily a problem. But I'm just going to keep it as a fraction, and I'm going to add these together. I'm just using my calculator to get that, and I get 421 over 5. You could also do common denominators if you wanted to do it by hand. So I don't have to actually do too much with the fraction besides just add it to some whole numbers over there. Now I'm in center radius form. My center is -7, 6, and the radius is the square root of 421 over 5. All right, our last question here. This looks like another one where we have a coefficient. So I'm going to start by dividing everything by 2. We need the coefficients of x squared and y squared to just be 1. And I'm going to rewrite a little. I'm going to move the 2x over to the other side. And now I can see this is set up the way I would like it. I have 2 x terms, so I will be leaving a space. I just have 1 y term, so I'm going to leave that alone and balance out the equation on the right. I'm going to fill these in with plus 1s. Factor, I get x minus 1 plus y squared equals 81. X minus 1 squared plus y squared equals 81 as our center radius form. The center is 1, 0, and our radius is 9. Hopefully you'll see by now, going through 8 problems, that the process does become repetitive, even though we might have to do a little setup in the beginning to get the equation to look like the way we want it to. And again, there's a lot of algebra in here that we might just need to review: how to factor, how to write a polynomial in standard form, how to complete the square. So always be sure to review those steps if needed. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next video.